we'll move on to the next game that we've got right down, and that is the Seattle Seahawks at the San Francisco 49ers. But it's 1 a.m. Saturday into Sunday. So Sunday morning at 1 a.m., like a Saturday night football game. Obviously a huge game, not just the battle for who could win the NFC West, it's also the battle for who could be the number one seed in the NFC and have home field advantage if they go all the way through to the Super Bowl. In fact, actually, if San Francisco gets that and then got to the Super Bowl, they don't have to leave home ever because the Super Bowl is in San Francisco, which has only happened. I wonder how many times that has happened in history. You know, I know teams have played in their own stadium but stayed the whole way, including the Super Bowl final.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the Bucks or the
Because
Rams.
the Bucks, I knew you immediately like balled in your head because the Bucks they played at home Super Bowl, but I don't think they
no, because they won in Lambeau. Brady, they won a road game at Lambeau. I'm trying to think of the Rams did it when they beat the Bengals.
Was that in LA?
Would it not? Yeah, it was. Would it not be mad that it's never happened in history, but now we're talking the last 5 or 6 years, we potentially could have a third team to win a home Super Bowl. It never happened until that COVID year, and then it's been Bucks, Rams, and now potentially because the Niners are in contention. I mean, I stayed up to watch last night's game. They were like phenomenal. And for Purdy to throw his pick six on the first play, and then I know it's one play, but then to play the game that he played. Yeah.
Considering he's been injured for a large majority of the season.
And some people were like, oh, Matt Jones could start when Purdy's back.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that game last night, like you've just said, 42-38 against the Bears. Obviously, we said about the Seattle game, they beat the Carolina Panthers 27-10. Seattle currently at the top 13-3. San Francisco 12-4. The Rams have unfortunately whittled off at 11-4, but all three teams are still going to the playoffs, which is pretty fantastic. But to think that, either the first or the second in one division is going to be atop the NFC. I mean, is that pretty wild? Has that happened before?
No, I think I looked earlier. I don't think it's ever happened for division and one seed.
We think, I mean, we sort of said that we thought the NFC West was going to be competitive this year, but I don't think any of us thought that it was going to be this electric. I mean, they have one trash team in Arizona Cardinals, but these three teams have just been phenomenal all the way through, haven't they?
I can't believe that they're actually both there. I think I was quite let's not bring up the clips, but I think I was quite critical of the Seahawks going into the season. Darnold moving over. I mean, obviously was positive on the Bears, but I can't just bang on one thing, getting that right. Got to admit my losses as well. The Seahawks doing as well as they has been insane, and obviously largely down to Mike McDonald, but then also you could say the same of what Shanahan's done in San Fran, but. Yeah, because even the Niners were being, wrote off. McCaffrey, is he done? He's banged up. He's injured. They missed their Super Bowl window when they lost to the Chiefs. So, just incredible that there are 3 teams in that division who could legit go all the way. Although deep down, I have to say it, I do think that Sam Darnold is not a quarterback who's going to win a Super Bowl. I have faith in, obviously, in Brock Purdy to potentially get over the line. Because he had a great game in that Super Bowl. Yeah, because that game when they lost to the Chiefs, he played incredible. And if it wasn't for, who was it who got injured when he was celebrating on the sideline? Greenlaw? Yeah. If it wasn't for that, I think the Niners win that game.
The team's got to be as good as the whole team. It can't just be down to one player, can it?
Really? It was a big moment, though. I think the team were probably like, what the... Yeah.
It was a shifting moment in that Super Bowl. I will give you that. But I've said it. I say it a lot. We have so much recency bias in the NFL. And just because a team ends bad or finishes fantastically at the end of the playoffs doesn't mean that they're going to be Washington Commanders into the second year. They're going to take a step back. They were an NFC Championship team. Fantastic. But it was a rookie quarterback. Teams are going to learn. Teams are going to know. Teams are going to get healthier again. San Francisco, unfortunately, has been the same injury-ridden team it's ever been this season. But it seemed to have stuck pretty well, and it's actually San Francisco, Adam, the measure of coaching to coaching.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you can have as many injuries as they've had consistently over the last few years and still be competitive. I mean, this year they had They, I bang on about it, but they did have the easiest schedule before the season started. It does sort of put a little bit of a dampener on what they've done. But the fact is, to lose all these players consistently over multiple years, and aside from last year, be Super Bowl competitive. I think it says an awful lot about the job that Kyle Shanahan has done and what his coaching staff has done there. So, I mean, that's kind of the bar. Everyone should be looking at that and trying to be like that, because it is impressive that they've managed to do it. When it comes to the division itself, I personally just think the Seahawks are a better all-round team certainly than the 49ers. I think the Seahawks and the Rams are very close. But the Seahawks have been a little bit surprising this year in respect of I think we all felt that they did well last year, and I think they went 10-7 last year, and we thought that they would improve for another year of Mike McDonald, and it's it's kind of shown out in the fact that they've gone 13-3 and could potentially go 14-3, and I think they're just a very good all-round team. But kind of like what Sky says, I do have some reservations on Sam Darnold. And the fact is that last year we were coming out going, the Vikings look good. They had a good, solid year. They went into the playoffs, first game, and lost. And he struggled in that. And so it does make you worry a little bit. But I do think this team is better than what the Vikings team was last year. So I think they've got a really good chance of going a long way, especially if they do have the number 1 seed.
Well, the minute Seattle are the number 1 ranked offense and there's number 2 best defense.
Yeah.
So a part of me goes, well, even if Sam Darnold would shit the bed in the playoff game, you can lean on your defense. They're pretty good. And they've also not got a bad running game. They're 14th in rush yards, 10th in rushing touchdowns. And then their defense wise, they're third in rushing yards, second in rushing touchdowns. They've had 1,510 yards and 9 touchdowns. They're second in quarterback hurries. They're third in quarterback pressures. They're 8th in sacks, 8th in quarterback knockdown. Like, they're 9th in passing touchdowns. They've only had 20. I mean, they are a very, very complete defense. And the one thing I heard again on another podcast earlier was that they felt like they just did everything well, but did nothing excellent. And I'm a bit like, well, isn't that the epitome of being excellent, is when everybody is doing very good and doing it at a high level? I mean, that's won the division in 2020. Last time they won 13 games was in 2013. What happened that year?
When they beat the Broncos.
When they won the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. The last 10 years, they've missed the playoffs 4 times, the most recent being last season in 2023. Like you said earlier, McDonald's second year, 10-7. And you talk about schedule easiness or strength of schedule, I suppose. I don't think their schedule has been... that's not been a cakewalk, I don't think.
No, I think it's been easy. No? They played like Saints, Titans...
The Seahawks?
Yeah.
I think they were kind of middle of the league, weren't they?
Yeah, but I just think like they played. Actually no, sorry, no, because I'm gonna sound wrong, and I'm not criticizing them. I would just say, and I'm not just saying this because the Patriots have the easier schedule. Sorry, as Adam was saying, this just speaks volumes to how open this season is. It really is. I feel like I text Adam this the other day. I feel like we've time traveled back to like the 2008 period, 2008 to like 2013, where it was just open every year, and there really is no clear favorite, and I love that. And so I'm not going to say it's been easy, but I mean, I can't say that because they've got the Niners and Rams in their division. So
what I do love is they played Niners the first game of the year. That's what I really like. That I love that it bookended the same games, and I know obviously they had no idea in week 1 that the implications of what week 18 would be for both of these two teams. But obviously the Seahawks lost that 17-13. You say about strength of schedule, like, we have to bear in mind the strength of schedule stuff's done prior to the season and not within the season. So They played the Steelers, the Saints, the Cardinals, the Bucks, the Jags, the Texans.
Hang on a minute. That depends what you look at. If you look at Tankathon, then they have a adjusted strength of schedule.
Oh, do they?
Which is why the Patriots schedule became even easier during the season than it was at the beginning of the season.
Have a look at Seattle's then for me, if you're on it just there.
It probably, I don't know if it'll have it on there now, because obviously most of the games are done. But I remember looking at it like halfway through the season, and the Patriots' strength of schedule was so far below everyone else's.
But
it was unbelievable.
Yeah, we'll have to dig it out, because I was saying to Adam that we must have the technically ranked the easiest one, because if the Pats and the Broncos both win next week, the Broncos get the 1 seed because they've had a harder strength of opponent. Because
it only does it for the remaining schedule strength.
You know what though, I would like to see the Seattle Seahawks do well though and go to the NFC Championship. I actually would prefer that with the 49ers, and I only think that is because I just feel like the 49ers have just always been ever presence there, and Sky's right. Seattle going to the NFC Championship or going far in this playoffs or going to the Super Bowl does feel like a major throwback, and I'm quite into that, and I'm quite into Sam Darnold silencing doubters as well. And that's not me saying I'm a doubter nor a believer. I'm quite into seeing someone prevail like that, you know. And this I like a lot of their players. I like a lot. Jackson Smith and Jigba has been wow. I mean, fantastic. I like Kenneth Walker. I like Zach Charbonnet. I like Cooper Kupp. I think Cooper Kupp deserves to have. I know he's not been very good for Seattle this year, but I think he deserves to sort of go and have a little bit of one last go at it. I really like some of their guys on defense as well. I think they've got a lot of names and players of people that go. It's a little bit like Denver. Everyone goes, they've got really great defenses, but can you name 10 players on their defense? Like I probably couldn't, but I know they're really good, and I know they've got. I quite like their cornerback group and stuff like that. But I don't know them all off the top of my head, but I know they're pretty good, and I just think I'm liking Mike McDonald as well. I think his coaching this year has been brilliant, and I almost think Seattle may ebb and flow. But I think under Shanahan, the 49ers will always remain. They're always going to remain in the mix. They're always going to be in the mix, aren't they? You'd have thought so.
I think all the time he's there. Yeah, I mean, it's like it's like McVay, isn't it? All the time he's at the Rams, they're going to be competitive. And I think to a certain extent, you might find that it could become the same actually with McDaniel. I think that he's got the ability to do that. I know this is a real basic stat. And this isn't anything, you know, obviously this is about who you've played and stuff like that. But the Seahawks have scored the most points in the whole NFL this season, and only the Texans have conceded less. And I think that tells you quite a lot about how much of a good all-round team they are.
That's what I mean about, like, you don't believe in Darnold. Do you think it's just a pressure thing for Darnold?
Yeah, I think so. I think it could end up being a bit like that it's just once the pressure kicks in. That doesn't mean that the team loses. It just means that the offense starts struggling a bit, I think.
I'm just not sure which NFC team I'm looking at and going that they'll give him that much trouble in a way.
I mean, the only one I would say is the Rams.
Yeah, it's the team that's in division.
Yeah.
And this year, what?
I think weirdly he probably is better in those, like that game we saw where they beat the Rams, those high scoring games. I'd be more concerned if I know I said last week I don't think the Eagles will go all the way, but I think when you play a team like their defense, that is where Sam Darnold is probably going to come unstuck, because we saw what happened. You know what they even did to Josh Allen yesterday for pretty much 3.5 quarters. I think we all say about who's best, this and that, but we us avid free sat here and many people watching the podcast, watching the NFL for years, it's all about matchups and the X's and O's. And I think Sam Darnold gets exposed more against teams with an elite defense, elite pass rush, strong secondary. You know, if you've got DeJean and Mitchell, you know, covering in a game like that, that would be a team that the Seahawks wouldn't want to play. They're quite good against their own opponents because they're used to playing them and it's high scoring.
I think what you're trying to search for is that some quarterbacks just you can put a lot of pressure on them, but it's about the comfortability factor.
Yeah.
And I think you are very right. There's been some quarterbacks that we have done really, really well. And as soon as they've got very uncomfortable, they haven't been able to sort of rubber band back into a groove and to create their own groove in a way. I think Josh Allen for me is fantastic. Like, the ones that can run are pretty amazing at that. But also, like, Josh Allen's the best for that, I think. I think once he's uncomfortable, I think he can get himself back into it quite quickly. But I do think that is like a question mark over Sam Darnold. You're right. He may have been felt comfortable against the Rams front, but he has played the Rams twice, and they do study it a lot. They are in division, but you're right, when you come up against the Eagles, and okay, the Eagles aren't the best team, and they haven't got their defense is playing well, but not as well as it was last year. But they are a team that get you uncomfortable, and they'll get you into spots. It's just, unfortunately for them, they've had quarterbacks who have been able to get over that, and they've also had a poor offense to not be able to sort of counter that. So if you find a defense with an offense that works really well in the tandem, and the defense can get you offset, I think that is where Darnold would struggle. And it would be very interesting to see his reaction for that. Who do you reckon is going to win this game, Adam?
I think Seahawks win it.
Same for you, Scott?
No, go with the Niners, because like Adam said, I think this, again, essentially it's a playoff game. And I think you spoke about recency bias, Fred, but if you look at it, the body of work, Brock Purdy has taken his team to an NFC Championship game, a Super Bowl, turns up in all the big games. And Sam Darnold, when he had his biggest game last year with the Vikings, they got knocked out. So I think potentially it'll be a one-score loss, but I'm going to lean towards the Niners.
Also, as well, the Niners have been to the Super Bowl twice in the last 10 years, and the NFC Championship 4 times in the last 10 years. So they're a team that knows how to get there and knows how to win and knows how to play in a sticky situation.